The scout ship Pathfinder drifted silently through the vast darkness of uncharted space, its sleek metallic hull reflecting the dim light of a dying star. Captain Elias Carter sat in the command chair, staring at the holographic display in front of him, where a strange energy signature pulsed like a heartbeat in the void. It had appeared out of nowhere, hidden in the shadows of a dead system that had long been abandoned. No known species had ever reported anything of value here, yet the readings suggested something ancient, something powerful. His crew lieutenant Sarah Hayes, engineer Tobias Grant, and the ship's AI Helix were already running deep scans, trying to make sense of the anomaly. But there was no mistaking it. They had stumbled upon something that was never meant to be found. As they moved closer, the Pathfinder's external lights revealed a structure floating in the blackness, its surface covered in layers of dust and debris, untouched for what seemed like millions of years. It wasn't just any wreckage. It was an enormous space station, larger than any human-built structure, its design alien yet strangely familiar. Massive pillars extended from its center, spiraling outward in a pattern that looked deliberate, almost ceremonial. There were no markings from any known civilization, no distress beacons, no signs of life. It was as if this place had been forgotten by time itself. Carter felt a chill run down his spine as he watched the station rotate slowly, its jagged edges casting eerie shadows across the ship's scanners. "Helix, are you getting anything?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with anticipation. The AI responded in its usual calm tone. "Captain, the structure is millions of years old. Materials unknown. Energy source active but decayed. There is something here, but I cannot identify it." A silence settled over the crew as they absorbed the AI's words. If the energy was still active after all these years, it meant that something inside was still functioning. The thought sent a surge of excitement through Carter. This was history in its purest form, a glimpse into a civilization that predated humanity's presence in the stars. But there was also danger. Ancient ruins rarely held pleasant surprises. "Prepare for docking," he ordered, his decision made. The Pathfinder carefully maneuvered toward a massive docking bay, its doors frozen in place, covered in layers of dust and ice. Using the ship's external arms, Grant managed to clear a path, forcing the doors open just enough for them to slip through. Inside, darkness swallowed them whole, the ship's lights barely illuminating the massive corridors. The walls were smooth, metallic, and engraved with strange symbols that seemed almost like writing, but none of them recognized the language. "This place is giving me the creeps," Hayes muttered, her hand resting on her sidearm as they stepped out of the ship and onto the station's cold, silent floor. The deeper they moved inside, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. The air was stale, untouched by time, yet there was no sign of decay, no remains of the beings who had built this place. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. In the heart of the station, they found a massive hall lined with towering statues, each depicting a tall, armored figure with an elongated skull and piercing eyes. The craftsmanship was breathtaking, the details so precise that the statues almost seemed alive. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform, upon which lay a strange metallic device, covered in dust yet untouched by time. Carter approached it cautiously, brushing away the dirt to reveal a panel underneath. As soon as his fingers touched the surface, the device hummed to life, a soft blue glow spreading through the chamber. The statues flickered, as if shifting in and out of reality, and a deep, resonant voice echoed through the room. "The lost inheritors have returned." The words sent a shiver through Carter's spine. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they had just awakened something beyond their understanding. The walls trembled as hidden mechanisms whirred to life, ancient systems rebooting after countless millennia of slumber. Lights flickered along the corridors, and the station structure groaned as if stretching after an eternity of stillness. "Captain," Helix's voice crackled over the comms, "a signal has been sent. Unknown destination. Unknown recipient." Carter's stomach tightened. They had not only activated the station, they had alerted something, or someone, out there in the vastness of space. And whatever had built this place had left it hidden for a reason. Before they could react, a distant rumbling echoed through the station, followed by the unmistakable sound of shifting metal. Doors that had been sealed for eons were beginning to open, revealing pathways that led deeper into the structure. A choice lay before them: flee while they still had the chance, or press forward into the unknown. But something told Carter that they were already past the point of no return. The station had been waiting for them, and whatever lay ahead would change everything they knew about the universe. The station groaned as ancient mechanisms whirred back to life, filling the once-dead corridors with a low, vibrating hum. The air itself seemed to tremble, as if the structure had been waiting for this moment for untold millennia. Captain Elias Carter felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on him as he stood frozen before the strange device that had started it all. The words still echoed in his mind: the lost inheritors have returned. They hadn't just found a forgotten relic of an ancient civilization. They had triggered something far greater, something that had been dormant but never truly dead. The dim blue glow that had spread through the chamber flickered like a heartbeat, and with each pulse, the station's systems reactivated one by one. Massive doors, untouched for eons, slid open with a deep metallic groan, revealing pathways that had been sealed since before humanity had even dreamed of the stars. The realization sent a chill down Carter's spine. Whatever had built this place had locked it away for a reason. And now, that reason was waking up. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes tightened her grip on her sidearm, her eyes darting around the massive hall as if expecting something to emerge from the darkness. "Captain, I don't like this," she muttered, her voice low but tense. Engineer Tobias Grant was already working his scanner, his fingers flying over the device as he tried to make sense of the readings flooding the screen. "This is impossible," he whispered, shaking his head. The energy output just spiked. "The station isn't just turning on, it's repairing itself." Even as he spoke, dust that had settled over the centuries was beginning to dissipate, metal surfaces smoothing as if time itself was reversing. The statues that lined the chamber, once still and lifeless, now seemed different, subtle changes in their posture, their eyes no longer dull but filled with an eerie luminescence, as if they were watching. Then, without warning, the station shuddered violently. A deep, resonant chime rang through the halls, not mechanical, but something older, something almost organic. Carter's earpiece crackled as Helix, the ship's AI, interrupted. "Captain, an unknown signal is transmitting from the station. I cannot block it." A pit formed in Carter's stomach. If the station was sending a signal, that meant something or someone was listening. And if it had remained hidden for so long, it likely wasn't meant to be found. The realization barely had time to sink in before the deep hum of the station shifted into something else, a rhythmic pulse, like the beating of a great heart. The statues trembled, the air thickening with an unnatural stillness. And then the silence broke. A sudden gust of air, impossibly strong, rushed through the chamber, carrying with it a whisper, not of a language, but of something older, something that bypassed speech and burrowed straight into the mind. Images flashed in Carter's head: towering cities of obsidian and gold, skies filled with ships so vast they eclipsed the stars, and figures standing at the height of their power, gazing into the void. And then, the fall. A war unlike anything humanity had ever known. A battle against something unseen, something vast, something that even the mighty civilization that built this station could not defeat. Their final act had been to seal themselves away, to hide from whatever horror had hunted them. But the moment the humans had touched this place, they had broken the silence. They had undone the seal. Hayes stumbled backward, gasping, clutching her head as if trying to force the visions away. Grant fell to his knees, shaking. "What was that?" he gasped. Carter didn't answer. He couldn't. Because deep within the corridors, past the now open doors, something was moving. A sound, faint but unmistakable, the slow, deliberate scrape of metal against stone. The station was not empty. Something had survived. And now it was waking up. The blue glow that had once pulsed gently now flickered erratically, shifting to a deep, blood-red hue. Emergency symbols flared to life on the walls, their meanings unknown but their warning unmistakable. Intruders detected. In on them with every step. The temperature dropped. Their breath misted in the air. The sound of movement behind them grew louder. It was no longer distant. It was closing in. And then, just as they reached the docking bay, a figure stepped into view. It wasn't a statue. It wasn't human. Was something in between. Towering, armored, its face obscured by an ornate helmet, the being stood motionless in the center of the corridor, its eyes glowing with the same eerie light that now filled the station. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then, the creature tilted its head, as if studying them. And in that moment, Carter knew this wasn't just a machine. This wasn't just an echo of the past. It was a guardian, and it had been waiting for them. The station systems blared as the red glow intensified, and in a voice that sent shivers through every fiber of their being, the being spoke. Not in words, but in thought, in an overwhelming presence that filled their minds with one chilling message. You were not meant to wake us. And then, the world erupted into chaos. A deafening alarm blared through the ancient corridors, its sound vibrating through the metallic walls, like the final toll of a funeral bell. The entire station pulsed with red light, casting long, flickering shadows as Captain Elias Carter and his crew stood frozen in place. Before them, the towering armored figure remained unmoving, its glowing eyes locked onto them with an intensity that made their breath catch in their throats. The air was heavy, thick with something unseen yet suffocating, as if the very station itself was alive and watching. For a brief moment, there was only silence, broken only by the distant mechanical groans of a structure awakening after countless years of slumber. And then, the voice returned not through sound, but through thought, a presence in their minds so powerful that it drowned out their very instincts to run. You were not meant to wake us. The words echoed like a forgotten truth resurfacing, laced with something that sent a deep chill down Carter's spine. It was not anger, nor was it relief. It was fear. Hayes tightened her grip on her weapon, sweat beading on her forehead, but Carter knew a gun was useless here. This guardian was not made of flesh and bone. It was something else entirely, something left behind as a final safeguard against whatever nightmare had once consumed this place. Grant fumbled with his scanner, his hands shaking as data flooded the small screen, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain, it's not just a machine. It's a construct, a fusion of mind and technology. It's old, far older than anything in human history. The Guardian tilted its head slightly at those words, as if acknowledging them, but it did not move. The station groaned again, the red light intensifying, and the alarm deepened into something more rhythmic, something that did not belong to any human system. It was a beacon. Carter's heart pounded as he realized the truth. The station was not just sending a signal, it was calling out across the stars. Helix, status report. He barked into his comms, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The AI responded instantly, but there was something unsettling about its tone, something almost strained. Captain, an unknown transmission has been detected, spreading across multiple frequencies. It is not directed at any known civilization. Carter clenched his jaw. This wasn't a simple distress signal. It was something else. Something older. Something dangerous. He turned back to the Guardian, forcing himself to meet those glowing eyes. Who is coming? He demanded, his voice steady despite the fear curling in his gut. The Guardian finally moved. Slow, deliberate, its massive frame shifting with a grace that was almost unnatural. It raised an armored hand, and the walls around them changed. The once flickering red lights dimmed, replaced by a projection so vast that it seemed to stretch beyond the station itself. And then they saw it. A vision of the past, towering citadels stretching beyond the sky. Great fleets, larger than any human could comprehend, moving through the void like celestial giants. And then a darkness, something vast, something endless. It swallowed the stars, an unstoppable tide of hunger and destruction. The ancient civilization, the ones who had built this place, had fought, their weapons igniting the heavens in a desperate attempt to hold the darkness back. But they had failed. The vision shifted, showing the final moments of a lost era. Cities collapsing, ships falling like dying embers, entire worlds consumed without mercy. And then, silence. The last of the survivors, the final remnants of an empire that had once ruled the galaxy, sealing themselves away in hidden sanctuaries, this station, one of many. A final, desperate hope that the darkness would never find them again. The vision faded, leaving only the cold metal walls of the station and the oppressive weight of what they had just witnessed. The Guardian lowered its hand, its voice returning in that same cold, thought-woven tone. We hid from the end. We became the forgotten. And now, you have awoken the past. Carter swallowed hard. The implications were terrifying. The darkness that had wiped out an entire civilization had not been destroyed, it had only been waiting. And by activating this station, by sending that signal, they had told it exactly where to look. A sudden tremor shook the station, the metal beneath their feet vibrating as if something massive was approaching. Helix's voice returned, this time edged with urgency. Captain, multiple unknown vessels have entered the system. They do not match any recorded species. Energy signatures highly unstable. Carter didn't need to hear more. They had to leave. Now. Move, he shouted, grabbing Grant by the shoulder and pulling him toward the docking bay. Hayes was already ahead, her weapon drawn even though they all knew it wouldn't help. The Guardian did not follow them, did not try to stop them. Instead, it simply watched, its eyes burning with something that might have been sorrow. As they rushed onto the Pathfinder, Carter barely had time to strap in before Helix engaged emergency thrusters, ripping the small ship away from the station just as the first of the unknown vessels emerged from the void. They were unlike anything in the known universe, massive, jagged constructs, pulsing with an eerie, unnatural glow, as if they had been shaped not by hands, but by something far worse. No markings. No signs of communication. Only the overwhelming presence of something ancient and hungry. Something that had once consumed an empire and was now looking at its next prey. Carter clenched his fists, his mind racing. The warning had been clear. The forgotten past had awoken, and with it, a nightmare that had nearly erased the greatest civilization the universe had ever known. And now, it was humanity's turn to face it. The Pathfinder sped through the void, its engines burning hotter than ever, as Captain Elias Carter gripped the armrest of his seat, his mind racing with the events that had just unfolded. The warning from the ancient Guardian still echoed in his thoughts. You have awoken the past. Outside the ship's reinforced windows, the massive, unnatural vessels loomed in the darkness, their jagged forms pulsing with eerie, unstable energy. These were not just remnants of a forgotten enemy. They were something far worse, something alive, something that had waited for millennia in the emptiness between the stars. And now, it had returned. Helix's voice broke the silence, its normally controlled tone edged with something close to urgency. Captain, the unknown ships are closing in. Their energy readings are fluctuating, highly unstable. I am detecting gravitational distortions around them. They are not using conventional propulsion. Carter's jaw tightened. These things did not move like ships. They moved like predators. Hayes was already at the weapons console, her fingers hovering over the controls. Do we engage? She asked, her voice steady but tense. Carter hesitated. Their weapons were powerful, but against something like this, something that had destroyed an entire civilization, they might as well be throwing stones at a storm. Not yet, he said, his eyes locked on the approaching fleet. Helix, plot the fastest route out of here. We need to warn the Federation. But before the AI could respond, a new alert flashed across the screen, an incoming transmission. Not from the enemy. From someone else. Unknown vessel, do not engage. You are in grave danger. The voice was deep, commanding, and unfamiliar. The signal's origin appeared on the screen, another ship, emerging from the far side of the system. It was unlike anything Carter had ever seen. Sleek, dark, and massive, its hull shimmered with an energy field that pulsed like a living thing. As it drew closer, the alien ships hesitated, their erratic movements shifting into something more calculated. They knew this vessel, and they feared it. Hayes glanced at Carter, her fingers tightening on the console. Who the hell are they? Before he could respond, the new ship unleashed a pulse of energy. It wasn't an attack, it was a signal. A challenge. The monstrous vessels hesitated, as if considering their next move, then suddenly, without warning, they vanished. Not through conventional warp or jump drives. They simply disappeared. The darkness swallowed them, leaving only the silent, drifting remains of the ancient station in the distance. Carter exhaled, tension still gripping his body. Helix, open a channel. The response was immediate. The screen flickered, and the face of a being appeared, a humanoid, but not human. His features were sharp, his eyes glowing faintly with the same energy that shimmered across his ship. "You should not be here," the alien said, his expression unreadable. "You have no idea what you have awoken." Carter leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Then tell us." The alien studied him for a long moment before speaking. "We are the last of those who once stood against them. We are not your enemies. But if you do not act quickly, your kind will not survive what is coming." The weight of his words settled heavily over the crew. The warnings had been real. The past had risen, and humanity was standing at the edge of a war they were not prepared for. But they were not alone. Not yet. Carter met the alien's gaze and made his decision. "Then help us fight." The void trembled as the first strike was unleashed. Energy beams tore through the darkness, illuminating the battlefield in a storm of fire and destruction. Captain Elias Carter gritted his teeth as the Pathfinder weaved through the chaos, dodging blasts that could tear a warship apart in seconds. The enemy had arrived in full force, massive, jagged vessels pulsing with unstable energy, their very presence distorting the space around them. The darkness had returned, and humanity's survival hung by a thread. "Helix, status report." Carter barked over the alarms blaring through the ship. The AI responded instantly, its tone colder than usual. "Enemy fleet consists of 23 confirmed ships. Their energy signatures are fluctuating, possible phase shift technology. Our allied forces are engaging, but losses are mounting." Carter's fists clenched. The so-called ally survivors of the ancient war had warned them of this, had told them that these creatures were more than just machines or soldiers. They were remnants of something beyond comprehension, a force that had devoured civilizations before humanity even took its first steps among the stars. Now, they were here to do the same again. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Oblivion's edge," Hayes called out, her voice sharp with urgency. Carter barely had time to nod before the alien commander's face flickered onto the screen. "Human, your forces are losing ground," the commander said, his glowing eyes filled with grim determination. "The void beasts are adapting. We must strike their core ship before it fully synchronizes with this sector." Carter didn't hesitate. Coordinates. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a massive structure lurking behind the enemy fleet. It was unlike anything Carter had seen, a twisted fusion of organic and mechanical horror, its tendrils extending into the fabric of space itself. It was not just a ship. It was a living entity, and it was controlling the swarm. "If we take that thing down," Carter said, his mind racing, "we cut off their command structure." The alien commander nodded. "But it will not be easy. Their defenses will harden the closer you get." Carter turned to Hayes and Grant. "Prepare for a direct assault. We go in fast, hit them where it hurts, and pray we make it out." The Pathfinder surged forward, weaving through the battlefield as explosions rippled through the void. The Allied fleet fought desperately, holding the enemy at bay just long enough for Carter's team to slip through. As they neared the core ship, the air inside the cockpit grew heavy. The creature, whatever it was, felt their presence. The ship's tendrils moved, lashing out like living weapons, tearing through anything in their path. "Brace for impact," Hayes shouted as the Pathfinder rolled to avoid a sweeping tendril, narrowly missing instant destruction. "Weapons locked," Grant confirmed, his hands flying over the controls. "Firing now!" A barrage of missiles and energy blasts slammed into the core ship, sending shockwaves rippling across its monstrous form. But it wasn't enough. The creature howled, a soundless, mind-piercing scream that sent shivers through the crew. The ship's wounds began to heal instantly, the tendrils pulsing with new energy. "It's regenerating too fast," Hayes cursed. Carter's mind raced. Conventional weapons wouldn't work. They needed something stronger, something final. Then an idea struck him. Helix, reroute all remaining power to the reactor. Prepare for overload. A pause. Then the AI responded, its tone eerily calm. "Captain, such an action will result in total destruction of the Pathfinder." Carter exhaled. "I know." A moment of silence passed through the crew. Then Hayes nodded. "If this is the only way." Grant swallowed hard but gave a determined look. "Let's end this." The Pathfinder accelerated, heading straight for the core ship. The enemy seemed to sense what was happening. The tendrils lashed out wildly, but the ship dodged, pushing forward, closer and closer to the heart of the nightmare. The reactor alarms blared as power surged beyond safety limits. Carter gripped the controls, his voice steady. "All hands, brace for detonation." The final sequence initiated. The ship's core burned white-hot, a star ready to explode. And then impact. A blinding eruption consumed the battlefield, tearing through the darkness like a dying sun. The core ship shrieked as its monstrous form shattered, its tendrils withering, its control collapsing. The remaining enemy vessels convulsed, lost, disconnected. And then, one by one, they vanished into the void. The war had ended in a single, fiery moment. When the light faded, only silence remained. And among the debris, the remnants of the Pathfinder drifted, a symbol of the sacrifice that had saved the future.